Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Synergy and Multifamily. I am excited to say that I get to talk to Francisco Santos today. We have been pretty much talking all the time for the last few months, but today is a deep dive into his background, his future, and I can't wait to just see how much he grows. So I'm going to welcome you up, Francisco.
Appreciate the invite and also the warm welcome. Appreciate everyone jumping in and taking their time too to join us today and learn a little bit about myself.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to start out with a very generalized question, and that is really if you could share a little bit about your journey into multifamily investing. Specific, how did you become involved in underwriting and in your leadership roles? Because I know in your W-2 you are a leader. So how did that transfer over into multifamily?
So it's a long story, so I'm gonna keep it very short. You know, one thing is that for some reason, as Michael brought up, man of faith, that's what I carry too, is the fact that God put you in places where you belong, not where you think you're gonna be. Right? Where you want to be is typically he's gonna laugh at you and he's gonna move you to where he wants you to be. Um, every single time I wanted to make a shift that I thought where I was gonna be, I always got shifted back to say, no, you're my leader. I need you to go in this path. Right. And it started ever since, when I was younger, as I always walked my own walk, always walked my own path. I didn't worry about what anybody else had to even say about me. I walked with my head up. I had my chest out. People didn't like me because of that, because I wasn't that follower. But I didn't know what my path was going to be, but based on me growing and getting to that, and it's every portion of my life from when I started working from the age of 19 to, till now, it's always been leadership. That's always been that whole path. And from the age of 20, taking over
All right, I'll
the
talk to you
position
later,
of
bro.
my boss, that had a heart attack at work. He called me, the youngest one in the whole department. He called me into the nurse's office and summoned me. They say, "Hey, I need you to run this. I only trust you," and that meant a lot. So just being able to look at that and say, you know what, that was my trajectory, and everything that I look back in my whole life from my young age till now symbolize for the next movement and symbolize the next growth. What got me into multifamily was back in COVID time. My family and I'm a first gen, born here. My parents are from Cape Verde Islands, which is off the west coast of Africa. It's 10 little islands. We call that Hurricane Alley, right? If you ever hear about Hurricane Alley, look it up. That's what they call Cape Verde, because the majority of your hurricanes and depressions and everything come from there, because of the weather change from the Sahara comes through that portion of the island. So they typically have their rain seasons are hurricane seasons. So I hate to be the one that's bringing it this way, but it brought us this way. Uh, but it's one of those things that we were looking to buy some condo units in the island around, during COVID. They were making some apartment buildings and they were selling them for condos and stuff like that. I don't know what hit me. And when my sister came to me and said, hey, we want to buy it, we could sit out, we could do an Airbnb, we could do this, we could do that. I said, why don't we something just hit me and said, why don't we just buy the building? Right? Where we can own the entire building. Storefront was built for a bank. That was straight cash flow potential for stuff. But one thing that we didn't understand is, and they were willing to give us a loan, not like over here with sponsorship, you would have to get a loan with a sponsor. They were willing to give us a loan, but it was a 60%. I didn't know that that's the rule of the game when we were looking for it. If I knew it was the rule of the game, we would have took that loan for 60% and put 40% down and took the building. right? And it wasn't just one building we were looking at. We were looking at multiple buildings to purchase, right? But when they came back and said, hey, 60%, I'm looking at it like 60%, I could put 20% down and get something. But that mindset was not there to understand. So that what really drove me to start looking and saying, you know what, you need to learn, you need to find out. And I kept looking to say, okay, if I can move myself from buying a 2-family, a 3-family, which I was looking to do, purchase that and then scale up, continue to buy and, what they call house hacking, pull a HELOC out of it, you know, and continue to use the HELOC to buy other properties and stuff like that. Now it's no longer coming out of your pocket. Your tenants are paying everything. That was the scale that we were looking at. But something came, I found out how that there's a bigger play. And that's when I started looking into it and said, how can we make this work? Right. Typically, most people say, I can't make it work. In my mind, I'm saying, I have to make this work. And how can I make this work? And when you brought up about underwriting, what brought me to underwriting was the fact that I love numbers. I'm a puzzle guy. I love taking something and trying to figure it out. You could drop 1,000-piece puzzle in front of me. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to put it together. I'm going to make a story. It's going to come up and be 100% valid. So that's the reason why I like underwriting, is because it tells a story, right? They always say 1 + 1 = 2, but 1 + 1 really equals 3, right? Because if you put a man and a woman together and they're married, they create another. So that's when you're doing your underwriting, you start understanding that there's another facet within there that you are missing if you stay just with the numbers.
Yeah, you really have to think outside of the box. And I think that with underwriting, you have to get creative. There's multiple. I mean, I've seen your underwriting. I've watched you do it, right? And I personally still am in the learning process, trying to figure it all out. But just watching how one slight thing affects a whole other space, that I'm just like, how did that happen? And you're like, no, like if you take this and then this is going to happen, and it might seem like you're good here, but then this really is now, it's hitting it negatively. You have to work around that. So one of the things that I've noticed as I've had the opportunity to be around you is that you are a man of systems and just continuous growth. How do you approach staying ahead of, an ever evolving space in multifamily?
Number one thing is and you guys heard this from me many times before. It's like we were born with 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 mouth. You have to see more, listen more, and shut the hell up. Right? You have to really understand that someone is going to tell you their story, right? And then you have to look at it and say, okay, where's their pain point in that story? And that's exactly what happens with everything that we do in life. No matter where you walk, I guarantee tomorrow if you do that and you say, you know what, today I'm just gonna zip my mouth, I'm gonna listen, you will hear everybody's pain point. Right. So when you end up moving in that direction and you start looking at it, everything starts opening up to you, right? You start seeing things differently. You start seeing things brought to you. You know, avenues become the roads become bigger. I played sports when I was in high school. I was a basketball player. I didn't, I was being recruited for Division I college, but I did not get along with my coach. One thing I don't like front runners, right? If you are gonna be a coach, I believe you coach everybody to be their best, right? If you're that type of person that walks up and you're only gonna say, hey, I like what he's doing, so I'm gonna support him, and the one that I did support before, now I'm gonna kick him to the curb, I have a problem with that, right? Because everyone needs that support and you don't know if they're having that problem. But when I used to play sports, my friends they noticed it before I did, where they used to look at me when I used to play and they would tell me, they're like, you're not stopping him today. He's in the zone. There's nothing you can do. You're not stopping him. And I think that's when I get into underwriting and I get to certain things, my focal point dials right in. It's like, it turns into my special power that I block everything out, and it's almost to a point like it's not even tunnel vision. It's like you seeing beyond the numbers. Like the numbers are, you see the movies and you see all the numbers moving around people. Yeah, you get into that when you get into the zone. We call it, in sports, we call it the zone. And it happens every single time. It's like when you see numbers and you can get into that zone, it's like there is no stopping what you can do.
No, absolutely. And it's so true that you do start to, it's almost like tunnel vision, right? And sometimes tunnel vision seems like it could be overwhelming, but at the same time it's probably like the best thing that we can do for ourselves is like shut off and just focus.
Right.
I know for myself that has been something that I've been learning to do, as being part of multifamily is just giving me the opportunity to keep learning about myself and continue that. Um,
Definitely.
Now, for yourself, I mean, I don't know if anyone else knows here, but you have your financial race, and that's focusing really on budgeting and financial literacy. And I know that you've told us before that if someone, I can't remember the book it was, but if someone gave you a book, I think it was Bonawyn who said like, oh, what if you would have had that book when you were 20? You were like, it wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have taken it. So could you tell me now as an adult who is creating or has created your financial race, and you're trying to spread that message and bring awareness to budgeting and financial literacy, how do you see those principles really intertwining with the work that you're also doing in multifamily investing? Like, how do you incorporate them or use them into strategies?
It's all intertwined, right? It's all about how we think about certain things, right? Yeah, we had a conversation with Bonawyn, and we were in the class, not in the class, but we were in the house, and Bonawyn was trying to get me to say, no, I would change, right? And things will be different. But I think until we recognize within ourselves that we want to change and we don't like where we're at, you won't change. It has to be that fire that you're constantly striking that match, right? Until that match hits perfectly and it ignites, you're really not going to move forward. So that's what I always say is like, in order for someone to really understand that their life is a financial race, your life is a business, your life is what you are teaching, not yourself, but everyone else that's watching around you, right? Your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, they're all watching you, right? And one thing that I was always taught is that everyone takes a picture, right? I grew up in the Polaroid section, Polaroid days, the little shaker, you take the picture and you shake it, and then automatic the picture comes up. I'm dating myself a little bit, but but that's one of the things that you sit there and you say, you know what, it wasn't instant gratification. You had to work you had to wait for that to dry, right? I think we're in a microwave economy that everyone is saying, I'll get there when I get there, right? But by the time they get there, they're so stuck in the sand, that quicksand that got them there, that they don't even know how to step out of it. So the reason why I decided to create your financial race is because as we're doing investor relations, as we're talking to people, you're hearing people say, I would love to invest, but I can't because of, right? I would love to do this, but I can't because of, right? But a lot of people don't know the reason why they can't do it. They're making the excuses because they see that reason that they can't invest or they can't get to that point. Um, you know, Before I got into my trajectory and I got into my space, one book that I read was The Richest Man in Babylon, and I read that multiple times, right? That book itself spoke to me because I lived that life, right? And I know I smile at Michael and doing what he's doing because when I was his age, I didn't go to college, right? I didn't go to college right after high school. I was able to if I wanted to, but I didn't. So I wanted to go to work route. I was able to get a good job, back in 94, 95, making $600 a week. That's a 19-year-old, 20-year-old making that back in 94, right? Guess what I did with it? Showed off, bought everything, bought a new car, put rims on, ended up putting a system in the car. I looked ghetto fabulous, but I had nothing to show, you know. And that's the thing is that I want everyone to understand is the fact that we shine for nothing, right? When you do that. But when you look at everybody else, they grow for something. And that's the reason why I created Your Financial Raise, is to help people grow to be something. You don't have to shine, you don't have to show anybody anything. Like I could, I I started 2, 3 companies and my family members, some of them don't even know because guess what? Their mind is not ready for it. They're not ready to say, they're gonna be like, how did you do that? How did you, you're not ready for it. So I could tell you, how to get there, but before I made my journey into this, I was living in that life where living paycheck to paycheck, right? Went through a bad breakup where now I'm carrying all the bills for my house, right? Now I'm trying to rebalance everything, move stuff around. I had to skip a bill here to, pay this, to make this. Now I'm shuffling around. And what dawned on me was the fact that as I started building the financial race and I started moving myself into, financial abundance, is the fact that I was playing the money game, but I was playing it wrong, right? And a lot of people are doing that because what they do is they do create a budget, right? I guarantee everyone to say I have a budget, I create a budget, right? But that budget is created based on how you've transitioned over your life. You really don't understand it. And based on my students that I've been able to teach, which I've been able to teach 37 students so far, just, majority of them are on the budgeting side. They've been able to go from living paycheck to paycheck or being in the negative to being $50 a week, and I keep in touch with them, $50 a week savings, $200 a week savings, because now they see where their money is going, right? Now the money games becomes fun, right? And now those individuals now are able to say, okay, I can't wait till I get to that point. Now I can invest with you. So imagine having 37 people that at one point would never be able to invest and grow and say, hey, I built a legacy. They're now saying, hey, I'm definitely going to invest with you. I'm building, and that's my next goal.
I wanted to tie this back into a little bit more of your history too, Francisco, because we've had plenty of conversations, for about our parents, our family members, and I know your dad was a pretty big influence for you. At least that's the connection that I make every time that you talk about, your financial race, and I just want you to dive a little bit deeper as well. From that story of when you guys were writing them off back home, that the amount of people that he touched and that he reached, just from having that business mindset back home. I could definitely see you moving in that direction along with your financial raise, because you're helping an insane amount of people, open their eyes to their situation and better their situation, and not just, it doesn't end with them, right? It goes on for generations to come. Can you touch more about that as well? Because I think it's such an interesting story.
Yeah, sure. So just to go back even further than that, and excuse me if I tear up, I'm gonna try not to, right? It's one of those things that, breaking forth and breaking them walls. I lost my mom when I was 9, you know, and being in an environment with, I don't get me wrong, I had my grandparents, I had my uncle, I had, all those people around me to support and push forward, right? But there's nothing like a mother's love, right? So my father remarried, tried to work it out with, his wife. I would never call her the step, but I said his wife. Never worked out. We never got along. My father ended up getting into a serious accident where he ended up sustaining third and fourth degree burns on 80% of his body from his neck down when I was 13 years old. So we were without my father for roughly about 4 years, 5 years, and he had passed in the hospital. They had brought us to the hospital. We thought we were going to see him during that time just to see how he was doing. We didn't know that was our time. We were going in to say goodbye. No one told us, right? We walking in thinking that we were just seeing our father, he was going to be okay. We were just going to see him. But we went there to say our goodbye. Few years after that, few years after that, he survived. He came out. He had a stroke. He went through a lot of stuff. He had skin grafts and everything like that. So we thought we were over the hump, right? We was like, okay, he's back home, 15 years old. He's home, good. Me being, me growing into my manhood and adulthood, and not having a good relationship with his wife, and she's getting in the middle of things and trying to make us bad. It really knocked us together. Like we did not really see eye to eye. But one thing I'll say is, what really rocked the boat was when my father, came to me at, my sisters and I, when I was 19, my sisters were roughly about 17 and 16, and said, hey, I have to move overseas. I can't live here anymore from the money that I was able to get from my lawsuit, and I won't be able to live here long term. But if I go overseas, I'll be able to live with, a good, comfortable life for the time that I have left. At 19 years old, you don't know that. You're like, okay, your father is saying bye. He's around, but he's not going to be around. And it got to a point when my daughter was born, and he didn't get to see her as much as he wanted to. And I wanted to make sure that that point in time, no one else has that privilege to say, I can't be around my kids. Right? We make our own walk, we make our own path, but I want to make sure that our path is never to that point where you can't be around your grandparents, you can't be around your parents, you can't be around your grandkids, your nieces, nephews, no one, right? So that's the driver for your financial race. It's not about me doing anything for me. It's about me changing the potential of someone else going through that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, man. That's one of the stories that really, is stuck in my mind for some time since meeting you and having the pleasure to be able to know you on a much deeper level. With you leading in your financial race, and you just being a leader in general, from your W-2 to the projects that you have going on right now in multifamily. What type of qualities do you see that leaderships must have in order to be in this industry, right? Or just lead a life of purpose, and and spread that knowledge and wealth around to your loved ones and your close family, friends.
That's loaded and big time. I heard a quote and it stuck to me my whole life, and you guys never heard it. I never said it to you guys, but I'm gonna say it today. A leader is someone who believes that their ceiling is someone else's floor. If you have that capability of saying, I got to this point in my life, I don't need them to start at this point in their life, and you lift them up and you put them up and say, you know what, my ceiling is your floor. That's a true leader. It's someone who's willing to. And I'm not a military guy. I never been in the military, but most people say I have a military mind because of that whole aspect of the fact that no men left behind or women left behind. right? If I'm able to lift someone, then I'm gonna do my damnedest to make sure that they learn and they move forward, right? But I'm not gonna be that person that's gonna not put the mask on myself first if I'm on the plane and that plane is going down first, right? I can't save anybody else before I save myself. And I think when people want to give back so much, right, they forget that they have to put that mask on themselves, right? Because our job is to make sure we're safe, we're secure, and we move forward. And that pulls right back to your financial race, because I see a lot of the people that I've helped were helping other people that weren't helping themselves. So when I asked them the question, I said, okay, who are you giving to? Where's that money going? Where's this and where's that? Oh, I gave it to my brother, my sister. Okay. How often do they come and ask you for money? Now we're getting into the tough talk, right? Or I give them something every single month because they can't do this, they can't do that. I said, so let me ask you a question. If you can't breathe, if you can't support yourself, your brother and sister is going to give you something to support you, right? Right now, as I'm talking, I'm thinking of things, and I'm thinking of the Titanic, right? Everyone remember Jack and what's her name there on the thing? I would have pushed them off too.
I still think there was room for both of them.
I would
I
have
was
pushed
just
them
about
off.
to say that.
I would have pushed them off too, right? Because at the end of the day, is there may have been room on that, but the weight may have sunk that vessel, right? So a lot of people look at it one way. Sometimes you have to flip it and say, okay, what really can happen? And you have to be, I believe your financial race is about being a great steward of your money, right? And understanding that God only gives you what he believes you can handle at that moment in time, and show him what you can do with what he has given you, no matter what it is. If he feels you're being a great steward of everything that you do, and everything that you do, even for yourself and for the people around you that you can help, he will give you more. There's more value that comes for giving of yourself than it is of anything else. So I'm the type of person, I'll continue to give even if I don't get back, but I'm very cautious on how much I give, because I can't run on a tank of you can't run on an empty tank, right? So you got to remember who you're going to give it to and how you're going to give it to in order for you to become, that next ascending. And I know I spoke on one of the podcasts and Wendy's here about the life of a video game, right? I'm going to date myself again. I grew up in Atari, Coleco, Activision, the 8 bits, the 16 bits. But one thing we didn't have on that, you couldn't start from the exact same spot you died at. You had to go all the way to the beginning and try to pass that phase, right? So I always say that's how life is. You falter, right? But you have to go back and learn how you get into that next phase. So, and I think I tripped a lot. And that's the reason why I mentioned the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, because in that book, he wrote about a guy ripping up his money tree, not once, but twice, right? I did the exact same thing. I ripped up my money tree more than 3 times, maybe 4 times. But guess what? I'm still planting it, and I'm planting more, and I'm growing more, right? Because of the knowledge and the mistakes that I made, right? They always say that a man does not grow until they fail at something. Or a woman, excuse me. I don't want to just be, I got to be politically correct.
So something that you said really just kind of resonated with me. And you said someone's ceiling is someone else's floor. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense, especially when you're talking about giving back and just teaching other people and really being that pillar for them so that they can continue to touch their ceiling next. And who are they going to essentially, who are they going to touch? Who are they going to give back to? And so I think that part of that is without even knowing, you've become a mentor to a lot of people. And so what role do you see mentorship and ongoing education play for you in your career and continue to play for you as you move forward?
One thing I can say is I was never a big person of education. I don't know what sparked that switch, what changed, what flipped it. I can't say what did it, but I know what blunted it. You know, it's and I'm very cautious, especially with my children, my son, you know, of what he learned in school, because, I know I never liked reading. I didn't enjoy reading. I didn't enjoy any of that stuff because everything that they gave me, I didn't want to know about Macbeth. I didn't want to know about Shakespeare. I didn't want to know about what are they really going to do for me, right? I wanted to be like, okay, what is going to drive me and what's going to move me in the right direction? Because I needed to see what had A equals B equals C equals D equals E, F, right? But if you're giving me something that's going to blunt me from wanting to continue forward, um, I'm going to stop. And I think it was one day that I think it happened at work. I think like I'm thinking back now, what really got me to really move my education was the fact that one day that I was sitting at work and that's when I was living paycheck to paycheck. Couldn't scratch a dime to make 15 cents, you know. Um, and the my boss says I was just fed up and I said, you know what, this is it. I'm done. Here's the keys. Just give me a ride back to where I live. I'm good. I'm done. The senior director, the VP, and everybody came in and they talked to me like, you can't quit. And you're like, you're making a rash decision. You're making an emotional decision. You know, you have a family. You have bills. You have this. You have that. But in my mind, I'm thinking, but if you wanted to let me go, you're not worrying about that. You are not concerned about me that much because if you wanted me to go, you would say, hey, thank you for working here. We don't need your service anymore. So in my mind, I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? If this ain't the old shackles of old days, they need to hold me down. They need to shackle me down and they need to use that to their advantage because they knew what I brought to the table. So that's what spurred my point of saying, you know what? I would never wear another pair of shackles that I caused. And I continue to say, I'm gonna learn because they say all secrets are kept in books. I'm gonna go find the books that they have the secrets in. Right? I'm not gonna worry about reading these fiction, those fantasies, all that stuff. They got those in movies, right? Every book that you probably seen in a fictional, they put it in a movie. I'm going to go for those books that they will not put in the movie for anyone to know about that can educate them. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to keep building my fruit tree. You know, um, the mindset of saying, money don't grow on trees. I'm calling baloney, you know, because if I plant the right seeds, my tree will be a money tree. And that's exactly what I want, people to believe in is the fact that no one can tell you what you can do unless you believe that you can't do it.
100%. Thank you for that answer, man. It's incredible to see how certain employers are, they utilize those pain points against you, right? Because like you said, they knew they knew that they had you, right? But just slowly getting yourself out of that and utilizing debt to your advantage and not to your detriment, right?
Correct.
I think that's the most important thing. Can you speak on that as well? For I know a lot of people are here on the call. They can be interested in, in financial literacy, just learning more on how to utilize good debt as opposed to bad. How have you been able to make that shift for yourself? Alongside with teaching somebody that, and I guess refreshing your mind and sort of relearning it again as you're teaching other people.
Definitely.
Mhm.
There's, just like I said, there's always leverage, right? Matter of fact, let me share something with you guys. I just want to make sure everyone can see my screen with no problem.
It's good on our end.
All right. So this is a template that I created for my students, right? When you can visually see your debt, you can visually see your interest rates, you can see what's going on. It makes the game a little bit fun. So by creating this, a lot of people say, oh, I use my 0% interest debt to pay other stuff or move my stuff around or go buy stuff that, I want and don't need, right? I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to ask you a question. When's the last time someone on this, raise your hands, bought a television? This year, or the last year? Within the last year, anyone buy a television? Did you need it? Or did you want it? You could come off mute if you guys want to say,
Yeah, feel
I
free.
wanted it.
Myself, I wanted it. I didn't need it.
right? So that's the game so that you guys are aware, don't feel bad about it because that is what big America is doing. Big America is doing that because they have to take the money out of your pocket for them to pay their salaries, right? They have to do that stuff. And understanding that makes sense to what they're doing, right? So they're going to get you to want to buy something because matter of fact, I just received a 2-for-1 offer from Samsung to buy a TV, 65-inch, right? And then you get a 65-inch, right? So you buy one for 2,700, and then you get one for 650 or 500. So you look at it as a deal, right? But one thing I did was I plugged it into the calculator and said, how much interest is it going to be for me? Right? A lot of people don't know the rule of 72, right? That's the biggest thing that you could look at and then say, okay, what is the rule of 72 and how to understand it? And that's the biggest financial thing. And it comes to making money or losing money, right? So the rule of 72 is very simple. You just take the interest rate divided by the years, right? The number 72, and you automatically get how many years that money is going to take to double, right? So if you have a credit card interest of 28% divided by 72, that's going to tell you how much the bank is making every 3 years. It's going to double that money. So if you borrow $2,700 and you're just paying the minimum payment, it's typically going to take roughly about 3 years. They're going to double that money every 3 years. That's why if you take a look at your statement, now they have to put it on your thing, but you don't understand it because you don't know the rule of 72, right? Because they're playing on the mindset that, of ignorance, right? And if you continue to move in that direction because you're buying because you want and not because you need, right? It's gonna end up hampering you. There's also another saying that I use in my financial literacy classes. You can tell a poor person from a rich person by the size of their television and how many books they have in a house. But this is what I do is like once you really start seeing the dynamics of what's going on and what game is being played on you, you tend to pick up the game very quickly, and then you start turning it against them. Right now, my biggest focal point of what I'm doing in order to build and leverage credit, right? Credit was designed not for the minorities or for the poor when it first came out, right? The reason why they launched it out to the middle class and the lower class was because the wealthy, they weren't making no money on the wealthy. They knew the money game, right? They would take their money. Say if you take $100,000 and at a 3% interest, the wealthy are taking that $100,000 and they're getting roughly about 17% back of their money. They're willing to give you back that money, right? And those are the things that we have to really flip our minds to and understand that interest is not a all sums game, right? On the negative, it's also an all sums game on the positive, right? Another thing too is, I had an individual that I sat down with, and they was, going through their mortgage and stuff like that I put on here. And I said, how long have you had that house? It was like, I had the house for 22 years. I said, what did you do? He said, I noticed that you have a lower interest rate. If you had it for 22 years, your interest rate is lower. Yeah, we refinanced it, right, to get the lower rate because the lower rate seemed better to us, right? I said, perfect. I said, you just reset, you just ripped your money tree right out of the ground. I said, because you just reset yourself to paying all the interest in the first 10 to 15 years all over again. So he said he also took money out on the property as well, but he reset himself all over again to repay the interest because they always say 3 point, let's say if it's 2.8, 3% back when it was a few months ago. It's not really 3% because you're really paying the highest amount of interest in the first 15 years. Your total payments start hitting at the end. If you take a look at the amortization schedule, which means amort means death, mortgage means death, right? So that's the game that they play. They use words to symbolize what is going to happen to you. But understanding how those words are used, it changes how you play the game. But that's one factor that I show, that I provide. And I also, create, presented to them a budget sheet, right? And how to look at their budget, how to create their expense tracker. This is my biggest class that I have is on the budget, right? Where they can go in, and most people don't know that you're a business and you need to break down your income for your household as a business, right? You have your savings, you have your needs, you have your wants, right? And you need to make sure that you are staying within, like most people right now that I've been teaching are typically about 90% needs, right? Because their house is what's driving the majority of what they're paying for. Because what they did was, it's an acronym called financial creep, which is from another book that I've learned from learning as I kept going. As the individual continues to excel at work and continues to get promotions, guess what they do? They go buy a brand new car. They go buy a nicer house. They move into this. So what happens is that $50,000 increase or bump you receive from that promotion just puts you back into the poorhouse again because now you're wondering where your money went. But if you were to turn around and say, you know what, let me look at something within my range, even though I went $50,000 up, I made $50,000 more. Let me take that 50,000 because it's not really what you're going to make. You're really going to make about, after taxes, you're probably going to be about 15 to 25,000, depending on your bracket, right? If you take that and you put it to the side, now you have money to invest. Now you have your ending ends going out to make more money, right? Or you have your seeds being planted to grow more plants. You won't be that person that eats your last kernel of corn because you're hungry. You're going to save that last kernel of corn to plant more because that plant is probably going to produce you enough to carry you for a little bit, but you'll still have a big stalk left to also create more. So that's the whole facet that we have to get back to, is understanding that our labor is the biggest thing that we have right now. And I've seen people continue to work their entire life and amass nothing. Right. And now they're on GoFundMe or this and this and that because they wanted to have the great time. They wanted to pop the bottles at the clubs. They wanted to, buy the cars that they wanted to have. And now the car that they wanted to have, they no longer have it because guess what? It broke down on them. But they spent $50,000 on a car. That's me. Right. Like, I spent 16,000 plus whatever I added to the car. I added probably a good $10,000 to the car, right? And building it up and living the ghetto fabulous life. But one thing you want to do is you want to set your goals and understand that you need to run your household like a business, right? And if you don't run your household like a business, the other businesses run your household like their business, and you'll continue to pay them for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much, Francisco.
I'll stop sharing.
No worries, no worries. For those that would like to learn more about your program and how they can participate in the program, how could they reach out to you? I mean, a lot of people might already have a way to reach out to you, but is there a particular way that you prefer specifically for your financial raise?
Sure. Anyone can reach out to me at francisco.santos@TCO, Tom, Charlie, Oscar, Henry. I'll put it in the comments. I'm just trying to find stop video. There we go.
No, you stopped your video.
I stopped my video.
Yeah.
Why is it not allowing me to stop? There you go. Bingo, you had it. I'll put it in the chat. That way, if anyone wants to, talk about certain things and understand, what's going on financially. I'm not a financial advisor at all. I don't dabble into that. I'm more of a holistic type of person. I want to make sure that people understand the basics of safeguarding and being a great steward of their own money, which was something that I took hold and was able to continue to move forward. I'm a big advocate of spending for the right things. That's going to produce you even more in the future. As Jahira and Eric know, they spoke with me many times before. I believe that, there's many more avenues to be mowed on this voyage of creating additional income flows and stuff like that. But what I really would like to really harp on is understanding the words, right? When it comes to certain things, words mean a lot and they hold a lot of value, right? If I was to say, what does currency mean to you, right? People are going to say money. Currency to me means flow, right? So if you take a look at it and you really think about what words really mean, your whole mindset would change. So if currency is attached to money but means flow, then why are you stopping your money from flowing?
I think Lumi really liked that because she was laughing.
It's about that cash flow, baby.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Words hold so much value. It's one of the things that I've been learning as I continue in this life, right? And sometimes we just don't think about it ourselves. We're projecting the negative in our own lives. So I do want to ask
100%.
my final question before I open up the floor to everyone. And it's my question I ask everyone, so I probably know it by now, but how has multifamily investing changed your life?
I think multifamily investing has changed my life in part that it's a greater scheme. You know, in an aspect of what one asset or one possibility can be, right? We all have one dream. We believe in one dream, but multifamily has created that insight that there's dreams within dreams. There's reality within reality, right? And if we stop just thinking about what we walk through this world and that we are a core of what we are, our energy brings more, right? I believe that with multifamily, and if you look at the whole structure of it, you know, I brought up that someone's ceiling and someone's floor. And if you continue to look at that and believe that if you are able to pile on it more and more, and I always say this to my son and my daughter and my grandkids, my parents and my grandparents who are first generation born here, that I'm first generation born here. They came here to give us a better life. Granted, we have great avenues overseas. You know, we have property, we have everything there that they left us. But they came here for a reason. And MFM, the multifamily mindset, helped me bridge that whole idea saying, you know what I was thinking was true. My grandparents bought the land. My mother and father started building the foundation. It's my responsibility to build that first floor. My children's responsibility to keep building. But one thing that I've learned from the rich, every single time they say they don't leave anything to their children, they're not leaving anything to their children. They're giving everything to their, they're donating everything. Watch what they do because they don't do that. And that's what multifamily is allowing me to do, is because it's allowing me to see different things. They create beneficial foundations, right? They create their own nonprofit foundations because why? They donate that money there. That goes to their family. They're able to donate 5% and keep the rest. That's the money game that we didn't know. And multifamily opened that up for me drastically, right? Now I'm starting to understand where money goes and where money stays and how money flows and where it needs to be. But understanding the whole factor of what is the next steps of your evolution, right? You have to understand that, are you still on quicksand and you don't know it, or you on solid ground and then you're beginning to build what you need to build? But knowledge is what I leave for my kids, right? I do plan on leaving them a legacy of knowledge. So that way, if I take my kids, or anybody takes my kids, takes anything away from them, drop them wherever they want, and they can rebuild like there's no tomorrow. Because I take the exact same footprint of what my grandparents did. They had everything overseas. They had a house, they had land, they had everything. They uprooted and came here and dropped us. And now said, now build.
Thank you so much, Francisco. I appreciate you taking the time to just have this conversation with us and open up to us. It was amazing. I do want to open up the floor to anyone who would like to ask Francisco a question. Please, you can unmute yourselves, raise your hands, however is easiest. Yeah, the floor is open for anyone.
I definitely appreciate being on here and being able to share.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Thanks for raising your hand. You can just unmute. It's fine.
No, I just don't want to blur it out. That's not like me. I like to raise my hand, Wait.
Respect.
I don't have any questions, but I'll try to keep the comments to a minimum because if I were to say them in full, we'd be here for another 4 hours. So it was meant for me to come on this call tonight because it just hit home quite a bit. In fact, I'm probably gonna get emotional talking about this, but you talked a lot about your grandparents, your family, and I'm so connected with my family, as you see, like my mom, my grandmother, and I feel that too. And also I'm very, hard set on that aspect of giving back and, like what's our mission, what's our why, and just trying to think things logically and trying to look at the world and then look at yourself and say like, the world is thinking differently, but this is how I'm going to think, and this is going to be how I'm going to do it because it's beneficial for my family, it's beneficial for my future, it's beneficial for generations to come. So anyway, you just made a lot of great points. It was meant for me to come on this call. You like re-inspired me to just get down in the trenches and work tonight again. Cause I'm like, before I was on the call, I was like sitting in a chair going, yep, no, I'm just gonna take a nap. But you were able to like, pull that energy back out and, to remind me of my why, to remind me of why I'm doing this and why I'm staying up till 10, 11 o'clock at night, clocking in hours, and the next day going to school and then repeating the process all over again. So thank you for sharing your background, your wisdom, and yeah, just thank you. And thank you for who you are. I mean, it's awesome.
I appreciate you for speaking up, and just like Jade and Eric before we jump down there, like people have to hear what you got to say. I appreciate you as well for jumping on.
The hearts. Mine doesn't work. It doesn't do
I know
that.
we gotta upgrade, Jay. We slacking over here.
Well, we have to figure out where that falls in the wants or the needs category first.
This is true. Yeah, budget.
But other than that, if anybody wants to touch base with me on a one-on-one basis, because I know, Thurman, what's up, man?
I gotta have a question for you.
Okay,
Well, this
what's
is
up,
more
man?
of a general question. But how can any of us in the group best be of value to you?
I always say is, my adding value to myself or to anybody is just being who you are. Present your superpower. Your energy will come out for what it is, and it will attract who needs to be attracted to you. I always say is, I believe in energy. I believe in positive energy. I believe in negative energy. When you walk into a room and you see that the room changed because you walked into it and everyone's looking at you, that's you. That's your energy. Be that energy. That will attract who need to come to you, right? So I always say is be who you are, come who you are, but be your energy. And I guarantee you, it'll open up doors. I always say is, you know, I've been able to sit down with multiple people here. And I'm amazed that they feel gratitude because of my energy, and that just that the respect that I have, and I understand that. I always say is be yourself because I have more respect for someone who's gonna be able to show themselves in their worst form and allow me to make the decision if I'm gonna want to rock with you in your worst form because I will, because you're willing to show me that. Just like I poured myself out today, I showed everybody my most vulnerable spot, and Jahira and Wendy and Lewis and a few other people. It took them months. Some of them took years before they got to really get that from me. And I did that because I felt the energy here, and I felt that the people that showed up today, needed to hear what I had to say, and I couldn't hold back. That's what was granted to me to get today. But I always say, be yourself, present who you are. Superpower is who you are, right? Durbin, you and I have been rocking for so long. We've been touching base with each other for forever. So that just tells you right there that you being who you were is what really gravitated me to you.
Thank you, brother. That's love.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Tekarima.
Hi, Karina.
So just thank you so much for the call tonight. I'm on call, I'm a home birth midwife and new to multifamily. But yeah, like I appreciate the financial literacy, just education in general, because like I posted, I grew up in the foster care system. The family dynamic wasn't there. And I feel like over the years, because I'm now 40, like it's come from different people. So my son is 17, and so if
Mhm.
it's okay, Francisco, I'll forward him your email and see if he could get connected with you and do that. But yeah, I appreciate it. And I always like when I see raza or just people of color too in these situations because it's lacking. So just thank you for your knowledge, share, and everybody, Eric, Yahaira, yeah, who hosted and everything. So thank you.
Thank you. I definitely, I'm always open for anybody, doesn't matter age, whatever it may be. Um, you know, I'm just gonna say, if you can, if your kids don't listen, read books, have them listen to audiobooks, buy them an audio account, and really start driving that. Because I don't listen to music anymore. Music to me has become a bore. If I'm not listening to an audiobook and learning, I'm just listening to the wind that's blowing through my car.
I want to just add in there that that is a big feat. That is huge because Francisco used to be a DJ. So for him to say he doesn't listen to music anymore,
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I still have my DJ equipment. I think I have over 3,000 records,
Oh, wow.
turntables. I still have it all. I just will not play music anymore. It's not gonna benefit me until I hit my goals. That's what I shut down. I said, until I hit my goals, I will not be dancing and having a good. Sorry, my 50th birthday party. That's gonna be a different story. We're gonna party like there's no tomorrow,
that's an exception.
right? So, but other than that, before then, it's straight, concentration on getting to what we need to get.
100%. And I know you touched base with Kevin's son. Kevin, I'm not sure if your son's next to you or anything, but yeah, he's definitely willing to give out the info and the knowledge and any guidance. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Christopher's on. Yeah, Christopher's on. He logged on.
He's on? On, awesome. So
We
glad to
love
see you,
that.
Chris.
Yeah.
Love that.
But I appreciate you guys jumping on and and having me. Yeah, I'm humbled that to be on here. It's just one of those things that a lot. Some people know me who I am, and I don't share. I'm not that type of person, but it's a new year. And this is financial literacy month, as they call it. But they're giving you just a little bit, just to keep you still tied in and shackled. I would say is take what they give you, but dig deeper.
Yeah, it is financial literacy month, so it's important to just dig on and get your education. There's so much free knowledge out there. Your local libraries have so much knowledge.
And if you
But all right,
guys, and if anything that you guys need a direction on, it's and understanding it. One thing I always say is look to where your money is going, where you're losing the majority of your money, and I'll just leave this with you before we even go. The government is one of our biggest deterrents, right? They're the ones that create our dependence on them and our dependence on the ecosystem that they've created. So if you look at how you are moving in life and how you're trending and how you're doing it, it's because it was designed that way. Because businesses used to be taxed first. Due to the fact that everything changed in lobbying and all that stuff, they flipped the game and they started taxing businesses last. People that use their sweat of their brow first. But if you use money to make money, you're taxed less or taxed not at all.
Thank you so much for everything, Francisco. It was a pleasure having you on here. Hope you definitely planted some seeds and gave people some food for thought. So yeah, it's all about that follow-up, guys. Thank you so much for being here as well. We had a really good turnout tonight too. So I'll see you guys in a few weeks, in 2 weeks exactly. April
Yep.
I'll
27th.
be making some noise about this for sure on Facebook. So just
Appreciate
in
you,
case you see a bunch of people flocking in, know why. I love
Appreciate you,
this.
man.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your evening and may you guys enjoy the family.